Thank you. I'd like to call to order this August 19th, 2020, regular meeting of the Board of Education. Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Ms. Moffett?
Here.
Ms. Schofield?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here. Item B, Agenda 1, motion to approve the agenda. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the agenda of the August 19th, 2020, regular Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Education in adoption of a consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion unless a member of the Board of Education, treasurer, or superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved. I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Ms. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Item C, opening ceremony. Welcome our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City Schools, the hub of our community, committed to a culture of caring. We innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. And our mission, every student, every day, every opportunity. Item 2, informational items. This meeting is a meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must send an email to boemeeting@cfalls.org. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the individual's comment will be read. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, she or he must notify the superintendent and/or board president of the topic no later than 7 calendar days in advance of the meeting. The comments of these individuals will be read during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, comments will include the name and address of the individual and be limited to 3 minutes. In addition, in public session, the board will not hear complaints about school personnel nor against any person connected with the school system. An unabridged board agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device at the address shown on the screen, www.boarddocs.com. The next regularly scheduled meetings of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education are on September 2nd. Please excuse me. And September 16th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library, 2300 4th Street. And now for our Pledge of Allegiance, Ms. Patrice White.
If you would stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Item D, executive session. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, it is recommended that the Board of Education adjourn to executive session to consider the compensation of a public employee or official. We'll need a motion.
So moved. I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
We're back in public session. Item E, Treasurer CFO's business, consent agenda.
I'd like to recommend the Board of Education approve all items listed in the treasurer's consent agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments on these items?
A couple, yes. The permanent appropriations, there were quite a few changes again. A lot of them have to do with our federal funding and the carryover now that we are done expending our funds from last year. Eventually that will roll over into this year's funds. And the other big one is receiving all the purpose and goal statements for many of those accounts and setting those budgets. So I will have those. I'm waiting on a few more. So I will have those for you guys soon, probably sometime in September. But that is the majority of those. And then the transfer is just what money is left over that last year's senior class raised goes to this year's senior class for any expenses that they may have.
Thank you. Questions? Roll call.
Ms. Schofield,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Gomez,
Aye.
Ms. Moffitt.
Aye.
Item F, Treasurer CFO's business, Mrs. Christy Stoykoy.
I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve the July 2020 investment schedule and monthly spending report.
So moved.
I'll second. Moved and seconded.
Okay. Let's look at the monthly cash flow. Let's look at 006 first. So we are in the beginning of a new year. So you'll see the left column is mostly empty and everything has shifted. Cafeteria, I'm keeping my eye on, not knowing what this year may bring as far as lunches and whether we're remote or in person for the remainder of these months of the school year. So they ended last year with around 209,000 to the good, which is good. But as you can see, and let me explain a little bit about the revenues and expenditures separately. So the revenues, you can see a negative there, and that's due to kids that may have moved or seniors that still had lunch balances that are asking for those to be refunded to them. So that is the reason for that. The expenditures look skewed for the month of July anyway, and that is due to the fact that everyone is now on 24 equal pays. And previously it was not happening over the summer, so those charges weren't happening. So you can see, this will flatten out by the end, as you can kind of see if you even compare towards the end of last year to what it was in fiscal 19, you can see the decrease there. So it will eventually even itself out, but it looks like July got a big jump, but that's just the reason now they are receiving their paychecks in July. So obviously because of that, we have a large deficit for the month of July of 75,000. Normally I would say in a normal regular year that would also even itself out once school was back in and we were receiving, our federal reimbursements and our money from student lunches. I'm not sure what that looks like this year because we don't know what that looks like this year. As we know in the spring, our federal reimbursements were down, and that was with the fact that every child was eligible for a reimbursement. We were eligible for a reimbursement for every child. So it's going to depend on a lot of factors, the number of students. Right now they've gone back to just free and reduced we're getting reimbursed for. So we'll have to watch and see what happens throughout the year. But you can see that right now they are at 133,000 in July, when last year they were at 225. So that is something we're watching, but there's a lot of unknowns right now when it comes to food service.
While we're still on food service, Christy, I think one of the things we did differently this year is that in the forms that people are filling out, we put the free and reduced one in there, so everyone
Correct.
who fills them out online will see it. So hopefully that'll
Yes.
boost it. 'Cause it's my understanding that we benefit from also the percentage of
Yes.
people that
Yes,
fill those out.
we
So
do.
we want,
Yep.
even if people perhaps might not buy lunch, we still want them to fill that
Correct.
form out. They might not know they're eligible, but it could still benefit us.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Any other questions about the food service before I move on? Okay. Can you go to the 001?
Is that a federal government decision to only reimburse free and reduced? Okay.
Yes.
Just want to know which of our representatives to bug.
Mhm. Yes, it is. 001. So, as you can see, also beginning of the new year over here as well. Very similar in revenues. We have started to receive our advances for the second half settlement from Summit County for taxes. We've received two, I think, in the month of July. So pretty similar to last year. Over the next couple months, we'll see those again. We had a few more tax advances, and we should settle with our final settlement in September. Expenses, right along the same line, a little bit more than they were last year. And some of that has to do with the projects we did, the roofing projects, the bigger projects we did over the course that we paid some on in July to finish those. So the result was 5.2 million to the good, which brings our cash balance to 17.4 million right now. So as you can see, previous years 14 million. So we are about 3 million better than last year at this time, and about 4 million better than 2 years ago at this time. So obviously, again, with COVID, we are watching this. We have, our reduction right now, as far as we know, the same as last year from the state. We've received our CARES Act, and we've also received the CRF funding from the state of Ohio. So that helps offset some of that a little bit. But looking forward, right now it looks good. Keep our eye on those additional expenses that we may have to incur. And let's go to the interest. We'll go to the interest. Interest, you can see there's nothing, out of the ordinary here. It's a pretty stable month, given everything that's going on. 6,000. It's down a little from a few months past, but it is currently that's good for now. So kind of looking forward to see where it goes in the coming months, but that's a pretty solid number for July. And we will see it increase a little bit now that we're receiving that tax revenue and have a higher cash balance. So we will see it go up somewhat because of that. And hopefully it stays pretty steady. I will, at the next board meeting, be doing the comparison of fiscal 20 to fiscal 19 as far as interest. I think that's it. Yep, that is it.
Any questions for Ms. Doikoy? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Gomez,
Aye.
Ms. Moffett,
Aye.
Ms. Schofield.
Aye. Any comments this evening?
I do. So yesterday we held, which is the first annual here, not my first annual, our secretaries meeting with all of our building secretaries and anyone who has anything to do with our office. Typically in a normal setting, we would have it over at Neonet and be able to access their lab, their computer lab. We did it on Zoom. We had everybody there. We were able to, each of my departments talked about things to look for this year, problems that we may have had last year, reinforcing some things that maybe get missed at times or that we have trouble with. So I had, payroll spoke. We spoke on the purchasing process. We went through, receipts and fees and all the little things that they deal with, and kind of got some of their feedback on things. It went very well. I thought it went very well. I would have preferred, to be in person. It's a little more conducive, but for being on Zoom, It went well. There was participation. People were asking questions. And afterwards, I did get a couple of emails or phone calls with people just, thanking us for doing that and saying it was more informative than they thought it was going to be originally. So hopefully next year we're able to get back to in person. But I thought it went well and kind of opened up that line for them to get to know some of the people. Most, 3 of the 5 of us are newer in my office. So to kind of put the face in with the name and get a little more comfortable was helpful. And same for us, vice versa. So.
Thank you. And thank your staff too for their preparation and delivery of that professional development for our secretaries. We appreciate your work. Item G, Superintendent CEO's Business Consent Agenda.
Thank you, President Schofield and members of the board. It is recommended the Board of Education approve all items listed in the superintendent's consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on any of these items? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gomez,
Aye.
Ms. Moffett,
Aye.
Ms. Schofield,
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Item H, Superintendent CEO's Business. Dr. Todd Nichols.
Thank you, President Schofield. First up is a remote learning plan, and Mr. Hutch will, he helped assisted in the authoring of the plan, and so I'll have him speak to the plan specifically.
So it was initially confusing. Was here,
To go through so we can record you.
so we started with a blended learning plan, which turned into maybe we needed a remote learning plan, which we know that a remote learning plan covers both a blended learning model and an entirely remote model. So we've rescinded our blended learning plan with the state and are proposing a remote learning plan to supersede that and function in its place and beyond its place. So there outlines 6 key areas in that plan. There's instructional needs, determining competency, credit granting and student promotion. There's attendance and participation, progress monitoring, equitable access, and then professional learning and development for staff. I just want to go through each of those zones real quick for you and then answer any questions that I can for you. I don't want to go for a long time, so I'll go briefly. Basically, in the instructional needs section, we're highlighting standards aligned and that we're providing a standards aligned curriculum across the spectrum of delivery models, whether it's fully in person or fully remote. We are aligning strictly to the content standards. We are conducting and will continue to conduct gap analysis on student achievement. Data sources for that would include historical value-added data or vendor assessments such as MAP, district-wide common assessments, and classroom assessments as they would in a typical in-person environment. We have specific provisions for IEPs and written acceleration plans. Cameron Lazar has done extensive work in communicating with our community how we're going to provide instructional services for students with exceptionalities. And we will continue doing the ongoing work we always do with regards to content mapping our standards and utilizing the PLC process to improve instruction. Moving forward with determining competency, granting credit, and student promotion, teachers will be grading and assessing students fully regardless of the delivery model. Teachers will continue to meet in TBTs and review data and evidence of student success. Just as in a traditional school environment, teachers will assess, evaluate, and measure using formative and summative assessments. Our online platforms, including Progress Book, Google Classroom, Edmentum, and MobiMax, allow for accurate evaluation of student progress. And to the degree reasonably possible, teachers will follow the grading and promotion protocols adopted by the board. Moving on to attendance and participation. This is a challenge in a virtual environment. How do you accurately record attendance? So we're going to document both by physical presence in the classroom, whether it being virtual or otherwise. So there could be an AM and PM attendance code. Chris Shaw is working with Dazzle to account for that on a AM, PM basis. There's also a component of that can be monitored by work completion. We understand that not all students are going to be able to be present at all times, and that doesn't mean they're not attending to school. But House Bill 410 does remain in effect. We've not been excused from the requirements of House Bill 410. In terms of progress monitoring, really as within student learning or in-person learning, student progress will be monitored by an evaluation of student work, including assessment data, rubrics, portfolios, and vendor assessments, just as we would do in the classroom. As in the typical school environment, Goal progress will be monitored with regards to our special education students through the IEP process. We'll still be doing our quarterly goal reports and monitoring progress through the IEP process for all students through their specially designed instruction. And communication has been and will continue to be a hallmark of the progress monitoring process. The more we're communicating with our families, the more we can communicate and collaborate on progress for students. Equitable access is a very important part of everything we're doing in the district right now, and we continue our commitment to equity regardless of the learning model. We will continue our work with ICS for equity regardless of what our instructional model looks like. Continued focus on Tier 1 educational practices, including equal, efficient instruction for all students. MTSS will continue to guide our process for identification of struggling students and remediating in that. The Ohio Improvement Process continues to guide our work in terms of data and gap, in terms of the cycle of looking at data and improving. We also have data on gap analyses identified through the Ohio One Needs Assessment and through our curriculum audit, which will guide our work. And we are saturating our community with technology to eliminate access barriers that would limit student access to technology. We are one-to-one and are committed to providing technology access to the internet for those families most in need. And then as far as professional development goes.
Mr. Hutch?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I do have a quick question
Yes.
for you on the equitable access piece.
Yes.
What exactly is the Caregivers Academy?
So we are working with our CTIS staff to deliver PD for our parents so they can become proficient in how we're delivering instruction. So that would be we want to give PD to our community parents or caregivers. Parents is not everyone is a parent, but they need to know how to use our platforms. So our CTIS team is actively working on giving PD to our parents.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm happy to hear that news.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry again for the interruption.
No, but by all means, please. And then professional development, that's ongoing here. We have hit the first week hard with professional development. I want to give a shout out to my CTIS and media specialist teams who have really done a good job getting professional development for teachers alongside of the other things that have been going on. It's a lot of new platforms rolling out, a lot of expectations we need to do to be consistent across the district. And our team did a good job of that this week and also a good job of modeling instructional practices in a blended environment, which I'm very proud of. And we have both anticipatory and responsive professional development plan. We can anticipate some of our needs, but we're not going to know some of these needs no matter how much we predict until things unfold. And the length of time we spend remote or not will really impact how we develop our teachers' professional capabilities.
Any questions for Mr. Hutch?
What I'd like to add, he mentioned attendance, and I know that that's a burning question, given what spring looked like. And so I want to share with you this evening in a community the attendance expectations as they have been written. I'm going to start with K-5, attendance expectations. Attendance should be taken, this is a protocol for our faculty, okay? So that's the audience of this particular document. Attendance should be taken twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. Students are expected to be online for live instruction. That is the documentation for their attendance. If they are not online, they are absent. If it is the teacher's responsibility to post general schedule that remains constant so that caregivers can count on the time of day that they might need to help their student log on or receive support. This helps caregivers understand expectation and gives them more opportunity to support their child. And the piece that I would add about that is that schedule is coming out within the next couple of days because our expectation is next week that we will be in communication with all of our students and later in the week practicing going through the schedule before we have to get to the academic time of August 31st. It's also the teacher's responsibility to post daily schedule in Google Classroom announcements clearly marked with the date, live links, page numbers, and as much identifying information regarding assignments for caregivers and students as possible. Younger students would benefit from a picture of an assignment. Keeping routines the same is essential for both in-person and online instruction. Routines should not vary greatly when changing from in-person to hybrid to online instruction. This will help with the consistency for teacher, student, and families. from the very beginning, we have tried to build these platforms as parallel as possible so that we can be flexible with the changing times in the pandemic. So we're trying to make the Black Tiger Remote Learning Academy option number one when we're out of school, option number one when we're in school in a hybrid situation, option number one when we're in school full time. Make those things look as similar as possible, and that has been a goal right from the very beginning. Teachers should review the schedule of the day every morning, most likely after the morning check-in. Teachers will notify building principal and remote principal if on option 2, if a student has missed 3 consecutive days of instruction. So they missed the 2 days, the third day, notify the administrator, and then we follow the same protocols that we would if we were in a normal situation. Like Mr. Hutch mentioned, House Bill 410 did not go away. Teachers will notify the building principal. I mentioned if a student has missed 3 consecutive times of the day. So time of the day would mean 3 mornings or 3 afternoons. So Chris Shaw will create the format for attendance taking. Makeup work will follow the same expectations for option 1 and option 2 students. Consistent expectations for makeup work needs to be clear and posted in Google Classroom. And then Chris Shaw will be helping to determine how we are taking attendance and proper keeping track of students. We will be changing procedures a tiny bit, and we will from what was normal or what we thought was normal, and we will help everyone with that new procedure. As I transition to 612, many of those things stay the same. And then specifically, attendance will be taken daily by period in progress book. Please take attendance within the first 10 minutes of your class period. Students will log into Zoom or Google Meet classes daily. I think we've settled on Zoom at this point for the most part, right?
Yes.
Teachers will verify student attendance by students typing their name in the chat box upon arrival. Teachers should have Zoom chat conversation submissions are time-stamped. Any student not logging in and attending class will be marked as absent. Teachers will notify administration of students missing 3 or more consecutive days. Administration will follow up with the parent guardian. Timeline for makeup work will follow in-person district guidelines. So there you have a synopsis of the attendance guidelines. It is much different than the spring, and we're trying to make it as much like normal school as possible. And in terms of remote learning, just the numbers, we're in the neighborhood of 35% of our student body that are participating in option number 2. So what that means is then kindergarten is at, we have 72 students. First grade, we have 110 students. Second grade, 101. Third is 112. Fourth grade, 138. Fifth grade, 133. Sixth grade, 101. Seventh grade, 120. Eighth grade, 121. And then ninth grade, 92. 10th grade, 93. 11th grade, 130. And then 12th grade, 91. So ranges, kindergarten's a little lower, right? Because people are still enrolling, quite frankly. And those numbers could change because as of 8/16 at 3:56 in the afternoon, we still had 372 that hadn't declared, right? So honestly, making contact with all of those folks, we are anticipating that they are option 1. So we're treating them as option 1 at this point. So that's some additional information with regard to attendance and enrollment.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols.
You're welcome.
I have a question, and it stems from something that I read on social media, although I don't take everything that I know from there. But I did see a parent express the fact that he would be busy during the day, and if anyone expected that child to be in attendance during the school day, they
Say that
would,
again, please.
the parent
Yeah,
stated clearly that their child would not be in attendance during the school day because the parent only had the availability in the evening after they got home from work to do classwork with their child. So I was wondering, based on what you have said, how we handle those kinds of situations.
well, we are taping the lessons or recording the lessons so that they can be participated in both in synchronous and asynchronous fashions. The problem with what that is stated is then they've lost that live instruction.
Exactly.
And so we'll have to cross that bridge, honestly. And I think that's part of what Ryan was talking about in terms of their participation in the assessments, the assignments, and so on and so forth. We'll be able to know if they've logged into the class or not.
Right.
I mean, we'll know. I think those kinds of situations will have to be handled in a case-by-case situation with the parents. That would be my first response.
I just thought it was an interesting comment, and I thought it should be brought forward at the meeting
Yeah,
because I'm not sure that parents clearly understand the importance of live instruction with the teacher interaction with their child. And I'm sure that the parents are doing everything they can to make this work. But I think we also need to make it clear that we're trying to do our best to provide the best instruction for their child. So if at all possible, if instruction can take place when we're providing it, that is probably best for that child.
it is absolutely the best for that child. And, you know, as I mentioned through here, I don't want it to be lost that the bell schedules, if you will, are going to be coming out in the next couple of days because the expectation is for our folks to next week to participate with the students using the bell schedule.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols.
That
Thank you,
was-
Mr. Hutch.
I have one, for the 6 district compact students that are going to meet every day, wherever they're building, how are you, I know you're working on the bell schedule. And I assume we already do make accommodations for them to get to their classrooms of their other buildings, or even if they have to go home and then sign in. I mean, are we looking at that with the bell
The
schedule?
6 district compact really at this point in time is running as it normally would, sans the academic content courses that are not provided in their lab settings.
But
So,
what- Okay,
if I'm
What-
understanding you correctly, the level 1 students would be here in the morning, as they would be in the morning. Level 2 students would be here in the afternoon, as they would in the afternoon. We're still providing transportation between the 6 different high schools.
No, that's not I guess what I'm saying is if, say, a kid is coming to our high school,
Mhm.
they're only going to come maybe first, second period.
That's correct.
Okay, are we in the schedule going to give them time to get home for their third period class? Is that part, do you see what I'm saying?
I do-
How
I do
how are they going to
understand
get
what you're saying.
home, log in? Because usually the bell, there's 5 minutes.
hmm
So are we going to do a little?
Yeah, we'll be flexible
Okay,
with those students.
that's what
Yes.
that was my question. Thank you.
To keep going on attendance, because I want to make sure I understand. So we're taking attendance and people will be marked absent if they're not online with their teacher because we have to meet those legal requirements of taking attendance.
Right.
Correct. But we understand that people have other situations. They might be watching the videos, and that we as a district understand that piece and we'll work with those families, even though legally we still have to mark them.
We're going to have to deal with cases. I mean, yeah. A conversation that took place today amongst secondary administrators, in fact, was, how you might post assignments. So perhaps we might have teachers post a weekly, a weekly schedule, if you will, but then release Tuesdays. You can do that, through the technology. You can release it on Tuesday at whatever time you want to release it. So here might be our schedule, but then so that they can get organized, because that's a need that our teachers wanted. But then we also didn't want them to log in once and do all their assignments and not meet those requirements in terms of attendance. So kind of a both kind of a situation, if you will. Perhaps it's the compromise that we're going to post a, kind of a skeleton schedule, if you will, for the week. These are the things, these are the expectations, these are the objectives. But on a daily basis, then release the actual lectures and assignments and so on and so forth.
And then on the equity piece, what if anything, are we doing for people that don't have Wi-Fi at home? They don't have internet at home.
So we're ordering Wi-Fi hotspots, and there's a Broadband Ohio grant that we are looking at. There are some strings. That grant is a challenging grant, as I was explaining to some others earlier. It's not always as it seems, but we're going to try to capitalize as much as we can on that grant. But we are committed to providing access to families that need it.
And who should those people be contacted?
Their building principal would be a great first start.
And then just one more question, because I'm getting questions from people on how we're handling special education, IEPs. You could just clarify that for the community. 'Cause
Yeah,
there's
there's
a lot of confusion.
right. They're handled on a case by case basis. And there's a criterion set up as to whether they are, eligible for 5-day-a-week in-person education. And that, I think there's about 64 kids in that situation. And those students will be here 5 days a week and receiving education. If it's, if a student has co-taught time on their class, in their IEP, that co-taught time will be delivered remotely, if either in the Black Tiger Academy or if they are home. So their teacher and their intervention specialist will participate. If they have, I saw a specific example, in fact, this afternoon. So if they have 75 minutes a week that they are supposed to have co-taught time, and 30 of those minutes a week are supposed to be with the resource room or intervention specialist, those things are happening.
Okay.
I mean, so whether it's in a remote setting or it's in an in-person setting.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I guess one final question. I'm assuming we're providing contact information for our families should the computer crash and something go wrong along those lines. So much of it that I've seen is email so-and-so, or, well, if the thing isn't working,
Right. I'd like to set
that
up.
avenue is closed.
Yes. What we're trying to set up is a hotline. I'm trying to figure out how to staff that, but tech support in a remote setting is going to be a thing.
Okay, great.
So, yes, and you can't ask someone to email when their emailer doesn't work.
Exactly right.
So there's got to be an
Exactly right.
alternative method.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are we ready for a vote here now? Board? Roll call, please.
Ms. Moffitt?
Aye.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Hi.
We didn't.
Well, I don't think you had a
We didn't-
Oh, we
motion
didn't
and a
motion.
second.
We didn't have a motion?
No.
Oh, I'm
So
so
moved.
sorry.
Oh,
That's
okay.
okay.
We kind of got the
Oh,
discussion
you're
ahead
right.
of the
We don't
process
have a
here.
I made a motion. Did someone?
Well, it's on the consent agenda.
No,
it is not.
No, this
Oh,
No,
it's
it is
taken
not.
off? Okay, not in my book, but okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, seconded by Ms. White. Roll call now, please. Thank you.
Ms. Moffitt?
Aye.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
In terms of facilities construction update, sadly, I have nothing. There's been no movement in the last 2 weeks. We are waiting for September, when the commission will meet again. And they will then make a determination as to whether we're eligible to make a transition from our classroom facilities assistance program to expedited local partnership program. That's where we are, in a holding pattern. I have a meeting with our finance team next week sometime, being RBC and I guess Rick Maniloff and Mike, right? Okay, so in terms of comments, let me get to my comments. Would help if I could read my writing. So we started our levy, or started reconvening our levy committee. And we had a small group meeting this week, and August 26th, Mr. Belby just sent out an email invitation to the larger group that participated in the Zoom meeting in May. And so that will take place August 26th. And I've talked a bunch about remote learning, but I'll talk a little bit more about next week's schedule. And next week's schedule for the 612 environment would look essentially like this. I mean, all the buildings are kind of in the same thing. And why I'm saying all the buildings, I'm talking about high school, both middle schools, and Black Tiger Remote Academy. So Monday is going to be a welcome back video from the principal and all of those situations. Tuesday's teacher introductions and videos. Wednesday is Tiger Time in Black Tiger Remote Learning Academy in Bullock Middle School. It'll be Tiger Time, case management students, 504 students, teacher welcome video. Same at Roberts, and same at high school. And then Thursday, they're going to run through the schedules via Zoom with their students. And at CFH, at the high school here, run through the schedules via Zoom, and schedules will be ready and available to be shared via progress book by Wednesday. And then Friday is reserved to meet with the counselors to fix their schedules, if there are any problems with their schedule. So that's kind of our schedule for next week at the 612 environment. In the K5 environment, Monday is a welcome back video from the principals. Teachers are going to create instruction video. Kindergarten and Title I teachers meet with the families. They complete the screener. They model online resources. They do scratch off postcards, sent out to families with a welcome message and a classroom teacher's name. Tuesday, teacher introduction videos. Teacher creates an open house video. Kindergarten Title I teachers meet with families. Same thing as Monday. And families do drive-through to pick up Chromebooks and workbooks, etc. And teachers deliver items to their assigned families. Wednesday, teacher all call the students in their homeroom. Any teacher with a case management list of students, school counselors call 504 students, etc. They share a run through of the daily schedule that will be done on Thursday. Share details on how that will work. Answer any questions. Ask students to make videos of how they show Black Tiger pride, with permission, of course. Kindergarten and Title I teachers meet with families, complete the screener, model online resources, same as the previous 2 days. And again, families do drive-through pickup of Chromebooks, workbooks, etc. And teachers delivered their assigned to their assigned families. I know there's been a lot of questions about fees. Since I'm talking about that, we have purchased the consumables. Now we'll still have discussion about fees and exactly what fees will be necessary and what might not be necessary. But in terms of the consumables, workbooks, etc., those kinds of things, we've purchased them, and we will be distributing them. So those things will happen. I was on Thursday then, a run through a day in the life of a Black Tiger. Teachers will introduce their Google Classroom, have videos posted for watching, i.e. teacher-made videos to spark excitement in students about the start of the school year, families, again, doing drive-thrus. And then Friday, share out of Black Tiger Pride, student videos, student-made videos, and breakfast with the principals. So that's our schedule for next week. We want to get everyone used to the remote environment, get them used to their schedules, get them used to it before we hit the ground on the 31st academically.
On the K-5 piece, how are the special teachers gonna be worked into that?
Special teachers have independent videos that they're doing as well. Yeah, and they have, Rachel just told me that before I came down here. It's not reflected on this particular piece of paper, but she just told me that the specials are going to have their own independent videos.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols. Item I, board business. Number 1, board resolution, Purdue Pharma bankruptcy. This is authorizing the filing of a bankruptcy proof of claim. Resolved effective August 19th, 2020, that the Cuyahoga Falls City School District Board of Education engages the law firms of Brennan, Manna, and Diamond and Ennis Britton to file a proof of claim on behalf of the district in the Purdue Pharma bankruptcy in the United States Bankruptcy Court, Southern District of New York, in regarding Purdue Pharma LP et al., Chapter 11, Case Number 19-23649, RDD, in accordance with the terms of the engagement letter provided to the district. Ms. Stoiko, we need a motion and approval of this resolution.
Yes.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. What you saw, the background information that Ms. Stoiko gave us about this lawsuit, it's anticipated that with the opioid epidemic, that it may impact young children coming into schools and that the schools would have increased expenses in dealing with some learning needs that those children might bring with them. So this is a lawsuit I think that most of the school districts have signed on to, hoping we might at some point receive some compensation to help with addressing those children's needs.
Yes. The companies, there's the two of them, have done a lot of Summit County. They filed a claim already because it was due on the 30th on our behalf on July 30th. So they're doing multiple other counties, but they're doing most everyone in Summit County. And the engagement terms, as I sent, are basically to the effect of they don't get anything unless we get anything. So if we do receive money back from this, it is 20% to them of whatever we receive back. If they're unsuccessful, then there's no loss to us. So roughly the total amount we would be owed between a time period of 2003 and 2040. So past time and what future implications this could have is roughly 7.9 million. Now, if we see anything, it will be pennies on the dollar with that. But anything is good in this case because it's something. So even pennies on that would be welcomed at this point.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I just wanted to thank Ms. Joy for bringing this to the board and continuing to find ways to try to make us money, creative ways that we wouldn't think of to try to make sure that we are maximizing as many funding sources as possible.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Schofield,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Gomez,
Aye.
Ms. Moffitt.
Aye.
Item 2, Board of Education Administration Book Study. So long ago, it seems like a lifetime ago, last February, we received our focus books with the intent of starting our reading and moving forward with our collaborative administrative BOE professional development. Of course, we know that in March, then things shut down and we never did get this off the ground. So, but we haven't lost our interest in continuing to pursue this. So what you have in front of you is a template of how we might meaningfully engage in this professional development without it being overwhelming. So in talking with Dr. Nichols, trying to balance the reality of we all have many things to do, yet at the same time, knowing that we don't want just to have a hoop to jump through. We want this to be our first collaborative venture between the board and the administration. So to that end, we talked about having the first board meeting of every month be the board meeting where the reading assignment is due, so to speak. So you have an entire month to read, and you can see from the schedule, anywhere from 20 to 30, and in one case, 48 pages over the course of that month. And then answer a few guided reading questions. Folks will be divided into teams so that each board member can work collaboratively with a cabinet member and a team of administrators to take a look at responses and thoughts to that particular assignment. And then at the board meeting, that particular team made up of the board member and cabinet member would share that out for the rest of the board so we could hear everyone's thinking, even though they're not here in person.
Ms. Schofield, on the reading teams, I have two edits.
Okay, great.
On team number 1, it's Amanda Wycuff,
Okay,
Wycuff. And I think we have omitted Jason Smith.
oh dear, I thought I had him on here, but we'll make sure he's on. Thank you, Dr. Nichols.
You're more than welcome.
So, so in front of you, you have basically the little packet of materials that'll see us through till next May, when all of our chapters are read and all of our discussions are held. We'll get more information on this as we move forward. I made sure that I was up first so that if there were any glitches in the plan or in the way we proceeded, that hopefully we could smooth the waters moving forward for the other months. So a short reading assignment each month, reported out by the team on the first board meeting of each month, starting in September and moving through, reading through April until we get to May, when hopefully we'll have our final thoughts and wrap up and determine how we might use this work to impact the students we serve.
To help institutionalize the work, you will see in the procedures that I intend to have it as an agenda item on our administrative council meetings monthly as well.
So thoughts, reactions, comments?
You'll also notice it's a comprehensive list of our administrators, so it's inclusive of Joe and his team and others, so that we all have a shared understanding of the work that's being done.
Okay, so I don't hear anybody screaming and running from the room, so I'm guessing, are we good to go with this, and can we kick this off at our September meeting? I know Mrs. White's brought it up under comments for the last few months, and Ms. White, I think we're finally going to launch.
I think
Great.
we should declare that when you meet with your team, to have your team meeting, it's not a school event, so that we can broaden the horizons of locations that we could meet at.
Thank you for
I
your
think
insights,
people will be
Mr.
more-
Gomez.
more look forward more to the meetings in that sense.
There you go. All righty, let's move on to item 3 then, self-evaluation. Mr. Gomez, will you lead that conversation?
So after our last meeting, when we approved the fact that we wanted to move forward with that, I reached out to Cheryl Ryan, and I did give her the information that we had an unexpected resignation. We'd be looking to appoint someone early September, so that we would be looking mid to late September to bring her in, because we want to make sure we fill our vacancy first. She and I both agreed that it would be a valuable activity for a new board member, perhaps not to participate in because they don't have a lot to self-evaluate, but it'll give them a lot of information about what the board does and serve as a quasi-orientation on top of the formal one that we have as well. So she said she's free pretty much all of September, so we can look at that. I would start by proposing perhaps one of the Wednesdays we aren't meeting, because there's 5 Wednesdays in September. So maybe the 23rd or 30th. She would like to come meet in person, so it would be that $900 plus her mileage, but we have to make sure there's only 10 people. So the 5 board members, Dr. Nichols, Ms. Stoikoi, we need Mr. Frey to be here, and we need Mr. Hutch to be here to meet the technology piece, and then with Cheryl Ryan, that takes us to 10. So can't have any more than those 10 people present, because we have to be conscious of that.
Okay, so we'd need to call a special board meeting. And of course, we want to make sure that it's done after September 2nd. I know that on the 9th and the 23rd, we have negotiations with our associations and unions. So I know those 2 evenings are out.
So what's the 30th?
30th?
look like? Wednesdays just seem like a good starting point. It certainly doesn't have to be a Wednesday.
I have negotiations on my calendar on the 30th for OPSI.
Oh, yes, I do too. We have negotiations on I think 12 nights in September. So
So start telling us the ones that
I
aren't
can
on
tell
there.
you that's what's not taken. Labor Day. Let's see. The 29th. I think that's one of the only ones open.
It'll be a 5th Tuesday, correct? Yeah.
Because 1, 8, 15, and 22 are all negotiations. 3, 10, 17, and 24 are all negotiations. And then 2, 9, 16, 23, and 30 are negotiations or board meetings. Dr. Nichols and Ms. Stoikoi, is the 29th open for you or the 28th?
Either for
I
me.
think both of
Those are the only
work.
2 nights. Either one? Maybe we could propose either one to Ms.
Okay.
Ryan.
Yes, that works.
Okay,
So we're looking at 28 or 29.
right. So Mr. Gomez, you'll check in and see which, and what's the time frame? Would we go about 5:30 again?
Yeah, we'd start around 5:30. I told her that would be around when we start. She seemed to have no problem with that. So
Okay,
those details are worked out. It's just picking a date and getting that on the books for her.
all
And then
right.
she'll reach out to us with further. She might have us fill out a survey just to make sure she understands fully, but you should see. I'll let you know what the date is, and then we can get it noticed, and then I'll make sure she has everyone's contact information.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Item 4, Board of Education vacancy. This is a discussion item also. We received in our Friday packet, one of the interested applicants. I put at your place this evening another applicant whose information came in this week. And we will schedule those interviews to take place in an executive session that will be on our agenda at the start of our September 2nd meeting. How much time do you want to allocate to each
I was thinking
interview?
15 minutes. That's what we do for other appointments.
Okay, how's everyone feel about that? Okay, so we'll set those up in 15-minute intervals. I know some of you had trouble with the email shifting over to Google. But I had sent you,
Not me.
I was working with one of your coworkers.
I had sent you a set of questions from the Ohio School Boards Association that they include in their board vacancy packet. So please take a look at those, that you may find them of value in terms of what we might use as we interview candidates. And it may not be a bad idea too, to kind of self-reflect on what we have here on the board in terms of our background, our experience, what we bring to the table, and see if perhaps we want to enhance our collective wisdom as we take a look at those candidates. Mr. Gomez, other thoughts?
I was wondering if we wanted to do similar when we do superintendent or treasurer searches, when we each commit to asking the same question to each person. I think that's a process that gives you a fair evaluation. So I didn't know what others' thoughts were on that.
I would like that.
So perhaps when we go in there,
So
on the
let's
second, we can.
let's go into executive session, get our thoughts organized about the interview, and then call our first candidate.
The other question is, is our hope then to come out and then make the appointment? And if so, are we going to ask the people to wait? We have to be conscious of the 10-person thing. So we just need the logistical issues of being in a global pandemic and making sure that when we appoint the person, they can be here.
So I would like to appoint that night rather than wait 2 weeks.
I agree.
So that would be my thinking. And then as far as having them here, what do we suggest?
If there are only two candidates, I feel that's extremely awkward. You know, if we've got two people sitting there waiting to find out who the candidate's going to be, but that's just because I'm overly sensitive. So, I mean, at this point, they're all adults. If you're sitting there and you're not chosen, you're not chosen, I guess, but.
Well, I also don't think it'd be reasonable to interview them, appoint them, swear them in, and then expect them to start voting on stuff. So maybe we make the appointment at the end of the meeting, call them, and then
Yeah,
at the start of our September 16th meeting, we could swear them. Yeah, that might make more sense because I don't think it's reasonable to have them participate that night in the board meeting as well.
Okay, so what we'll do is we will put the interviews at the start of the meeting and then the selection vote at the end of the meeting. And we'll instruct however many candidates come forward that we'll be contacting them at the end of the meeting regarding whether or not they've been selected. And we'll ask that they not stay because of the guidelines from the governor.
The one other thought I had was whether or not we want Dr. Nichols and Christy to be in there when we interview. Obviously not when we're discussing the people after the fact, but it goes both ways. And I did ask them before the meeting because I didn't want to spring it on them at the meeting to give them time to capture some thoughts. But I mean, I can argue for and against it, but I think the thought is that essentially we're looking for the 7th member of the team and we're trying to send that message. So certainly they don't get a say in who gets picked, but perhaps they could ask a question. I'm open to either. I can argue for and against that idea.
I could probably argue for and against it too. What's anybody think? I know you probably know that my first 18 months on the board were as an appointee, and I was only interviewed by board members. So not that that's precedent setting, but just information. Well, I'll tell you what, let's give it some thought.
Sure.
Let's give it some thought. And if we'd like to invite them in then at our next meeting, it's not that they won't be here. Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Thank you,
you all.
everyone. Item 5, future agenda items.
I had
There are two that will come from us. And one being an emergency levy presentation on the 16th. Is that what we decided? The 2nd? Okay, we decided on the 2nd because you're doing zero-based on the 16th. Okay. And then we have a number of policies that'll be on for first read coming out of policy committee. So those two things, I know that'll be on there for sure.
I was hoping at some point we could have a report from someone regarding the academy versus the blended program. I know the blended program isn't happening, but in a way, they're already set a little bit apart. And so I think we just need some clarification. What does the Learning Academy look like across the system? In other words, is it different than the teachers just having the same 20 kids interfacing with them? I just want some clarification. How does this look? How is it working? Content-wise, student numbers, things like that, so that we can get, I feel, more information, so that when we're approached and asked questions, we have some understanding of what this is really looking like
Mhm.
in the functioning.
I can give you a brief overview of right now of what a K3 schedule look like, and 4, 5 is slightly different, but look something along the lines of logging on at 8:45, 8:50 to 9:05 morning check-in and attendance and announcements. There'd be a live Zoom meet for at least 15 minutes. 9:05 to 10:50, grade 3 would have specials, morning schedule review. ELA has some very specific things that they're doing. Combination of live instruction and workspace. Kindergarten, they're up to at least an hour live. We don't expect our kids to be in front of a screen all day long, especially at the young ones. First grade, work of at least an hour and 15 minutes live. Second grade, same. Third grade, an hour and a half. And aim to reach that block of time as quickly as possible. And 10:15 or 10:50 to 11:20 is Tiger time. It's no new instruction, small group instruction. Format can vary, but must include all students participating. Some students pre-recorded and some students are live with the teacher. Other students will be completing independent work. All students should be part of the live small group instruction during this time at least once a week. 11:20 to 12:20 is scheduled lunch and recess time. 12:20 to 2:35 is math, set aside for math, social studies, science. Grade 3 will have specific instructional block for the social studies and science. Math in grades 1 and 2. Kindergarten, again, will be an hour live. Kindergarten, first grade. First grade, second grade, an hour and 15. Third grade, an hour and a half. 2:35 to 3 o'clock would be writing, handwriting, etc. Combination of live and pre-recorded and at assigned times. And 3 to 3:15 would be an afternoon checkout, announcements, review evening responsibilities, and so on and so forth. That just gives you a snippet of what it would look like K to 3. So when I talk about a bell schedule, that's what's being put together. Grades 4 and 5 is more specific to their grade level needs. But I just wanted to give you a snippet, and we'll be happy to do a more detailed presentation. But
Okay.
I will tell you that central office is being very prescriptive on this, and there might be some pushback as a result of us being very prescriptive, but we feel that we need to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and we don't have a spring going on.
I want to guess and Mrs. Moffat's suggestion, and I was thinking maybe September 16th, because September 2nd, it's only day 3. I'm sure
Right.
you'll have some stuff to share, but anything put together at that point, we're still in the midst of it. But if September 16th, because we've been doing it for a little bit, we're getting up to that point where we're making a decision of what's going to be next.
Exactly.
If we could get something, I heard Mrs. Moffat say, what does it look like? So what does it look like how's it going? What does it look like? Those kinds of pieces
Right.
that I'm assuming John's going to be working on anyway, the look like piece, and then getting some more information from whomever you decide you want to have do that.
Well, you mentioned the whole decision-making process, and I know it's not on a future agenda item necessarily, but it kind of is, that we will have to engage in a decision-making process to see if we're going to be able to come back on the 28th or not. And of course, Donna Scota was on our Zoom call today, as she is every week with the superintendents. And they're working on a dashboard, a very specific data-driven dashboard that would continue to make recommendations for school districts in terms of opening or not opening. Every time that what she mentioned, and this is necessary for the community, is that every time there is another layer added, okay? So every time there's another layer added, there's a spike in cases. And right now in Summit County, so as a reference point, where they've been able to successfully reopen schools, there have been a case rate about 0.8 to 3 per 100,000. Right now in Summit County, by example, we're at 6.5 to 8. So we're more than double those situations. So I know of a school district back home in Northwest Ohio, very specifically where I lived for a while, that have this week had 3 cases in volleyball, 6 cases in football. Now, as a result, they have 100 quarantined staff and students. And they just reopened this week. So, it's going to be interesting.
Dr. Nichols, how does that impact the attendance then? You know, if you've got kids at home with COVID who have been exposed, what measures are put in place to perhaps excuse those kids or make some kind of accounting for why they may not be in the classroom?
So you heard Mr. Hutch talk about absence codes that Chris Shaw is creating.
Right.
And so there'll be COVID, if you will. There'll be an absence code that is specific to COVID situations. And House Bill 410, there's you still have the medical exemptions that are there. So.
What are the expectations then for makeup work? Have we delved into that yet?
Yeah, well, yes, we have. Makeup work will be handled as it was in a normal situation. So you'll have the time to make up the work and do the assignments and so on and so forth. So again, we're trying to make it as much, regardless of the format, trying to make it as much like I'll call it real school, right? As possible. And for that reason, that's why we feel in central office that we need to be very prescriptive.
Thank you.
Well, once we start reading Mike Schmolker and Focus, you'll see that one of the very first things he says, and he says it repeatedly, that we need an exceedingly clear set of essential expectations. An exceedingly clear set of essential expectations. And it's a theme that runs through that book. So
That's correct.
to hear you say that just reinforces one of the key concepts I'm sure we'll be talking about.
Absolutely. Sorry to derail the future agenda items. Apologies.
It's all right. We're, I think, ready for committee reports. So let's go ahead and begin with Alliance for School and Community Growth. Mrs. Moffett, anything to report this evening?
Our alliance meeting was August 11th, 2020. Dr. Nichols was in negotiations. Mrs. Dedones led our meeting, and we basically continued to review our business advisory plan.
Thank you. Board policy, Ms. White and Mr. Gomez.
There's just a lot more that you're going to have to read coming up. A lot of policies that we met on Thursday and went over.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, I don't think, too major differences, but there are some that you'll want to close read.
And they'll relate to what you're, what's happening in the world right now. There are some relevant
Yes.
to that, and there is a specific policy that about attendance and about like perhaps if a student's internet stops working for an extended period of time,
Right.
that would not be counted as an absence because there's nothing that they can do about that. So there are things coming like in that. So we are keeping with updating our Peplo and Wagner because that is our active policies. And then anything we adopt will be sent to Kyle and then be sent to other board members as well to review as part of that policy packet that you have.
Kyle did reach out to me this week and asked where we were in the process, so I communicated with her.
Business Advisory Council, Ms. White.
We meet on Tuesday, August 25th at 8 a.m.
Foundation and Alumni Association, Mr. Gomez.
We did not have a meeting this month. We will meet again next month, and we are working on launching our membership campaign. Just once again, point out that anyone can be a member of the foundation. You don't have to be an alumni. And if you go to cfsfaa.org, that's our website. You can get onto our web store as well and buy all kinds of Black Tiger merchandise, such as the shirt I am wearing was purchased. And those purchases support the foundation as the foundation gets a portion of the proceeds back. And then I know that we don't have a financial advisory committee representative, but I know that Mrs. White is very interested in finance and is just very eager to take that on. So just keep that in mind as well when you're making replacing those. She's
Thank you, Mr.
very
Gomez.
excited.
We always try and match board members with their strengths, so it's good to know. Legislative Liaison, Mr. Gomez, again, please.
Our state legislature continues to be in recess, but what I heard when we were doing our financial reports is a need to reach out to our federal representatives about USDA exemptions to continue those for all students. So I'll be reaching out and seeing what we can do. We have a parent in our district, and I won't name her here because I don't want her to be swarmed, but we do have a parent in our district who works for Congressman Tim Ryan. And she told me that, which was her mistake. So I'll be hitting her up as well to see what she can't do to try to advocate for us there.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Student Achievement Liaison, I'll just give a brief update on our Student Wellness and Success Committee that also met this week. 3 key things. First of all, the ODE reporting requirements for the grant funds that we received in 2019-2020. All those reporting requirements were met with an end-of-year report that needed to be submitted to ODE the end of July. Secondly, we decided to incorporate the staff's Operation Wellness program into the overall strategic wellness plan that is coming out of the Student Wellness and Success so that it's comprehensive. As Holly Merkel explained to us at our committee meeting, when the staff has good mental health, they're better for the students that they serve. And then finally, we continue to build the district wellness team. The latest addition to the team is Crystal Gluting, who's a school counselor at DeWitt and Preston. Moving on to comments, and we'll start this evening with Mrs. Moffett.
Kudos to everyone who continues to try to figure out how this is going to work this year. It's taking more time, I'm sure, than ever before, and I wish everyone a successful year. The best to our staff. I know you're working so hard. Our students who are coming into a different environment, and also since Mr. Martin is no longer here, I will get to say congratulations to our graduating, some of our graduates who got to play baseball, and they edged out Woodridge, dare I say it, 2-1. So congratulations to our baseball team and their coach, Mr. Shannon.
Thank you, Mrs. Moffett. I'm up next, and my shout out goes to the middle school staff members at Bolick and Roberts. I attended both their sixth grade orientations, as tiny and small and controlled and scheduled and appointmented as it was. But there at those tables, our staff members volunteering their time that evening to pass out Chromebooks and log those in and learning materials, and just volunteered their time to be there and meet those children as they were coming in for the first time. So thank you for all you do. Ms. White?
I don't have much, just a thank you to Karen Kunst for always giving us these wonderful agendas. And I don't know that we thank her, but she puts it all together, and it's a lot of work, I know, but she gets it to us and puts it together for us. Just a shout out for that. And then just real quickly, I wanted to voice, we all want our students back in school, including all of us on the board. But there are some things as community members we can do. And that is, hopefully to get this down in Summit County, wear your mask, again, wash your hands, all those things that we know will get this down. And once that decreases in 4 to 6 weeks, maybe, hopefully, if we all work together as a community, we can get back to school. So that was just a plea that we all.
Thank you, Ms. White. Mr. Gomez?
I enjoyed being able to watch our preview of the mini bands on YouTube last Friday night. I think that was a really creative way to get just a smidgen of normalcy back. It just felt good to hear the band play and see them on the field, and it was really awesome. I worked with Mr. Lazar to make sure that ICS Equity was aware of the anti-racism resolution we passed, since we are going to lean on them to help us with that. So he did forward that to Dr. Fratura so that she is aware, as she has those conversations with our staff, of some of the things that we want to make sure we work on as well, because we want to make sure those are tied together. Those aren't separate initiatives. The Lincoln PTA Mom Fundraiser starts August 31st. They did find a way to still make that happen. I asked their president to reach out to all of us, because it's going to be all digital this year. So they can just send you a link. You can purchase through that, and then it'll be contactless pickup as you drive through. I think it's going to be the Lincoln parking lot to pick them up. So it's nice to see them finding ways to have fundraisers. I think we probably all reached out to Mr. Martin personally, but I just wanted to state publicly, thank him for his service to our community. We know up here more than anyone else what a difficult job this can be sometimes. And he served our district well. I may have disagreed with him, as I said, but his passion was always clear, and he really did care about this district. So thank you, Mr. Martin, for your service. And lastly, just like to say, I've never hoped more that we were wrong. I hope that, districts like Woodridge and Talmadge that are shoving all those K-5 kids in 5 days a week, all of them, I hope they don't have spikes. I don't want any children to get sick. I hope at the end of this process on September 25th, we were wrong and nothing happened and we can send our kids back. But I can't sleep at night if one kid or one teacher gets sick or, God forbid, dies because of a decision I made. So I want to thank Dr. Nichols for making what had to be an incredibly difficult decision to go all remote. We know it's going to be awful at times and it's going to be difficult, but I can sleep a lot better at night knowing that we made the decision to keep people safe, and hopefully we are wrong and we can get them back in.
Right.
So thank you, Dr. Nichols and your team.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Item J, executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1. It is hereby moved that the board adjourn to executive session for the purpose of considering the employment of an employee or official of the school district. I'll need a second. Thank you, Ms. White. Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Ms. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. Schofield?
Aye. You're near Mike. Okay. Kids. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. I'll second.
Roll call. White.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Moffett.
Aye.
Schofield. Aye. 8:22.